9 experienced hikers ventured into the frozen wilderness of the Soviet Union in 1959. They never came back. When rescuers finally found their camp, the scene was inexplicable. The tent had been slashed open from the inside. Footprints led away into the darkness, and the bodies. They told a story that defied explanation. Some were found half naked in negative 30-degree temperatures. Others had injuries so severe, the medical examiner compared them to victims of a car crash. One was missing her tongue and eyes, and perhaps most disturbing of all, 3 articles of clothing tested positive for radiation. The official conclusion: death by an unknown compelling force. For over 60 years, this case has haunted investigators, spawned countless theories, and remained one of history's most chilling unsolved mysteries. This is the Dyatlov Pass incident. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you what really happened that night. January 23, 1959, a Soviet train station. 10 young adventurers board a train heading deep into the Ural Mountains, 8 men and 2 women. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, these weren't amateurs. Every member was an experienced hiker, intimately familiar with the brutal Siberian wilderness. As the train crawled through the snow-covered landscape, one member wrote in the group diary, "I wonder what awaits us on this hike. Will anything new happen?" It was a question that would take on horrifying significance. Over the next several days, they pushed deeper into the wilderness by train, bus, truck, then horse-drawn sleigh, eventually continuing on skis and on foot. On January 28th, something happened that would save one life. Yuri Yudin began feeling ill and made the painful decision to turn back, while the other 9 continued. These photographs were taken just before they parted ways. Look at their faces. Yudin had no idea he was looking at his friends for the last time. The remaining 9 pushed forward, documenting everything. Nothing in their journals or photos suggested trouble. Just snow, cold, and an increasingly challenging landscape. February 1st, 1959, the group reached the base of a mountain with an ominous name. The indigenous Mansi people called it Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. They spent the day climbing and made a fateful decision. They set up camp just a few hundred meters from the peak. These are the final photographs recovered from their cameras. Young faces, smiling despite the cold. The last diary entry reads,
"It is difficult to imagine such a comfort on the ridge, with shrill howling wind, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements."
Comfort. That's the word they used. Within hours, something would turn their shelter into a death trap. Weeks passed. Silence. The group had been expected to send a telegram upon their return. The date came and went. No word. Finally, as panic set in, a search party was organized. February 26th, nearly a month later. The search team spotted the tent on the mountainside, partially collapsed, covered by snow. As they approached, they immediately knew something was catastrophically wrong. The tent had been cut open from the inside. Long, deliberate slashes through the fabric. Inside, the hikers' belongings were neatly arranged. Food, equipment, boots, warm clothing, everything you'd need to survive. But there were no bodies. The next day, they found 9 sets of footprints leading down the slope toward the forest. And here's where it gets strange. The prints were shallow and evenly spaced. No evidence of running or panic. Whoever made these tracks had walked calmly down the mountain. but many appeared to have been made by people in socks or bare feet in -30-degree temperatures. The search team followed the tracks to the tree line, and what they found next would be the first of 9 bodies. At the edge of the forest stood a large cedar tree. Beneath it, remnants of a small fire, and beside the fire, 2 frozen corpses. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko lay dead in the snow, dressed in just underwear, light shirts, and socks. No jackets, no pants, no boots, -30 degrees Celsius. And these experienced hikers would dress as if they'd just gotten out of bed. The cedar tree branches were broken up to 5 meters high, as if someone had frantically climbed it. Were they trying to see the tent, or hiding from something? Over the following weeks, 3 more bodies were found between the cedar and the tent, positioned as if trying to make it back to camp. Slightly better dressed, but still missing critical gear. All 5 died of hypothermia, and 4 of them had been intoxicated. Then came the discovery that changed everything. 2 months into the search, the final 4 bodies were found at the bottom of a ravine, buried under 3 meters of snow. 3 of these hadn't died from the cold. 1 had a fractured skull. 2 others had multiple fractured ribs and massive internal bleeding. The medical examiner's comparison was chilling, injuries consistent with a high-speed car crash. But there were no cars, no cliffs. Nothing that could explain the sheer force required. And the examiner noted, these injuries were sustained while the victims were alive and could not have been inflicted by another human. 2 bodies had empty eye sockets. And 1 woman, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue, the final horror. 3 articles of clothing tested positive for radiation. On May 28, 1959, after months of investigation, Soviet authorities closed the case with a conclusion that sounds like science fiction.
The cause of death was an unknown compelling force which the hikers were unable to overcome.
An unknown compelling force. That was it. The case was sealed, the files buried, and the Dyatlov Pass incident became one of the 20th century's most enduring mysteries. But here's the thing, I don't think it's actually a mystery at all. Let's talk about that missing tongue. This detail has become legendary. Entire theories built around this single gruesome fact. But the actual medical report simply states the diaphragm of the mouth and the tongue is missing. No mention of cutting. No evidence of trauma, just missing. The same report notes gaping orbits. The eyeballs are absent. Sounds horrifying. Except the medical examiner explains these are post-mortem changes. Putrefaction and decomposition. Dubinina's body had been exposed to running water from melting snow for weeks. Soft tissues, eyes, tongue, and lips are the first to decompose and the first scavenged by small animals. It's not mysterious. It's nature. She had massive internal bleeding from her chest injuries. Finding blood in her stomach isn't strange at all. Now, the radiation. 3 articles tested positive at concerning levels. Sounds terrifying. But 2 of the hikers, Kolevatov and Krivonishenko, had previously worked at nuclear facilities. Kolevatov at a facility developing nuclear materials. Krivonishenko at a plutonium production plant. And guess whose clothing tested radioactive? Kolevatov and Krivonishenko. Multiple witnesses reported strange lights in the sky, glowing orbs, fireballs, and there's this photograph. The last image on one of the cameras, a blurry light source at night. Is it a UFO? Maybe a flashlight, candle, or literally anything else. Also maybe this was the Soviet Union in 1959, during the Cold War and space race. The skies were full of rockets, satellites, test launches, and military aircraft. Most importantly, there's zero evidence connecting any aerial phenomenon to what happened to the hikers. The key question: why did they leave the tent? Look at this photograph. See that pipe sticking out? That's the exhaust for their homemade internal stove, built by Dyatlov himself. They'd used the stove that evening. Partially eaten ham and bacon were found inside the tent. Here's what happened. After dinner, they disassembled the stove and removed the exhaust pipe. But embers remained inside, still hot. Somehow those embers reignited. Without the exhaust pipe, smoke instantly filled the tent. They panicked, cutting ventilation holes in the roof, but it wasn't enough. Unable to breathe, they slashed the side of the tent and escaped into the night. But the question is, where's the evidence? Several hikers had burn marks on skin and clothing. Some had blood around their mouths, a symptom of smoke inhalation. And a jacket photographed the day before shows obvious burn damage. Now they're outside in -30 degrees, underdressed, in a snowstorm, in pitch darkness. Someone decides, head for the forest. It's the only shelter, the only chance to build a fire and survive. Some are drunk. The autopsies confirmed this, impairing judgment and cold sensitivity. They may think the tent is on fire. They walk calmly down the slope. They reach the cedar and desperately start a fire. Some climb for dry branches. Others venture deeper into the woods. 75 meters from the tree, for trigger a snow collapse, tumbling over a ravine edge. It's only 3 meters, but the bottom is jagged rocks. The impacts are devastating. Fractured skulls, broken ribs, massive internal bleeding. At the cedar, 2 hikers slowly freeze as their fire dies. 3 attempt to reach the tent. They collapse one by one to hypothermia. In the ravine, the 4 critically injured are slowly buried by snow. By morning, all 9 are dead. The Dyatlov Pass incident has been called the most mysterious, unsolved case of the 20th century. But sometimes the truth isn't mysterious. Sometimes it's just tragic. 9 experienced hikers made small mistakes that cascaded into catastrophe. A faulty stove, a panicked evacuation, a desperate gamble for shelter. No unknown compelling force. No aliens. No conspiracy. Just human error, brutal nature, and terrible decisions made in the worst possible circumstances. The real mystery isn't what happened on Dead Mountain. It's why we've been so reluctant to accept such a simple, human explanation